Alright, see you later. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Tony, and this is Every Frame a Painting. Today's topic is the Oner, aka the long take. This is probably the most jerked off to type of shot in filmmaking, but basically all it means is doing an entire scene in a single unbroken shot. And let's face it, it's pretty awesome. We all have our favorites. There's 6 dozen lists on the internet about this, but we tend to notice the ones that draw attention to themselves. So let's skip all of these guys and go to one filmmaker who does Oners all the time, except his goal is to remain invisible. This dude. Truthfully, Spielberg's takes aren't even that long. He tends to keep them less than 3 minutes. In fact, he really likes that 1 minute to 2 minute zone, which is long enough to cover an entire scene, but short enough to keep the pace brisk. And while other directors seem to have a dominant formal technique to their long takes, for instance, Wes Anderson likes to move laterally, the only thing that really defines a Spielberg Oner is that it's supposed to be invisible. So maybe I'm full of shit for even saying it exists. Now, I'm going to cut these shots down for this video, but if you want to see the full scenes, I've put them all in 2 separate videos linked below. First off, a shot from Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is a single unbroken 90-second take. The great thing about it is that it's basically 4 different shots in one. There's a push in, 2 matching singles, and an insert. So Spielberg combines all 4 into a single moving master. It's really simple and elegant, and it probably saved a bunch of time on set. Also, it really works for the scene because there's suspense in the drinking contest. And no matter how many times I watch it, I still forget the exact timing, so it's always funny when this happens. Next up is a shot from Minority Report. This time they're on a Steadicam, but notice how the camera never moves unmotivated. It's always following a motion or an action.
Hold that, please.
The pacing is fantastic. You really get the sense that the scene is unfolding in front of you, rather than a cameraman hitting his marks.
You're in a lot of trouble, John.
The blocking of the actors is really fluid, and the shot goes from favoring one character to favoring another.
Easy. Seems I found a flaw.
Flashing back in time, this is Jaws. The great thing about this one is how restrained it is. The cameraman barely moves. All of the movement is in the blocking of the actors, and especially the really smart choice of location. By shooting on a real ferry, Spielberg can use the background action to keep the pace snappy. One of the reasons you forget how long this shot is because the background keeps shifting and you're always looking at something new.
You yelled shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Next up, Saving Private Ryan. One of the hallmarks of a Spielberg Oner is that he tends to do almost all of his special effects or his vis effects in the master, and this one's a doozy. Explosions, rubble, dust, smoke, gunfire, squibs, and, you know, a tank. Good shit. Now, I do want to emphasize, Spielberg did not invent this type of shot. In fact, it used to be a very common choice.
How about you, handsome? Haven't I seen you somewhere before?
In the 40s and 50s and 60s, studio directors frequently employed a moderate-length Oner to move the story along.
How do you like this? I'm running out of alibis.
But really, beginning with Rope and Touch of Evil, the Oner became a calling card for directors. Audiences noticed it, film critics and students got raging hard-ons for it, and for the last 50 years, it's been a game of one-upsmanship. Yours is 3 minutes, well mine's 17. Hitchcock did a movie seemingly in one take, well we did it actually in one. Now, I'm not saying that these long takes are bad. Most of them are fun as shit. All of them are a little awe-inspiring. But there used to be a real type of shot in, at least American cinema, that was, for lack of a better word, really robust. Like, it didn't break down, it worked. It got the job done. It was always interesting to watch. It didn't call attention to itself. You know, you could rely on it. Now it's split. You got one branch of filmmaking that is trying to go faster, shorter, more chaotic, and another that is almost willfully doing the opposite. Some people are still in the middle. Alfonso Cuarón comes to mind as someone trying to mine the long take for dramatic purposes, but even Alfonso isn't trying to be invisible. Hell, even Spielberg sometimes wants you to notice. This one from Minority Report is practically a De Palma or a Hitchcock shot. This one from Duel is, I mean, it's almost like a slasher movie. This one from Always, which is a terrible movie, is done in sync with a 747. And this is just insane. But otherwise, Spielberg plays it quiet, which is weird to say because, you know, he's Spielberg. But compared to his peers, this technique, which he's been doing for 40 years at this point, makes him stand out all the more.
And which car were you planning on?
Whichever one you are.
So I guess that's maybe the closest I can get to defining a Spielberg Oner. It uses any and all possible tricks to remain invisible. So if you're a director and you want to pull off a Spielberg Oner, there's a few simple rules to follow. First, move your actors. Move them around. Don't just have them stand there and talk like they're in a 2014 blockbuster.
Don't mind him. English humor, Scottish whiskey.
Second, follow that movement. The camera doesn't have to follow on a leash. It can swing around, it can move counter to them, it can track laterally, whatever. But watch the scene and place the camera accordingly. Third, break down the shot into multiple compositions and smaller angles. You are essentially linking 5 or 6 different shots into a single moving master. So you can think in terms of single, over the shoulder, insert, wide. It all flows together. Oh, and if you can accomplish all this without even moving the camera, even better.
Once the toxic concentration.
Fourth, do your vis effects or special effects. Anything you need to keep the magic alive, do it in the wide shot. Don't cheat and construct your elements out of close-ups and cutaways. Put them in the wide shot and let the actors interact with them. And don't fucking green screen shit that should be practical. The audience can tell when an actor is reacting to something that's there versus something that isn't. Fifth, if you need to, shoot a cutaway. All of the shots in this video are completely unbroken takes, but Spielberg isn't stupid. He often shoots an insert or a cutaway for a oner, even if he's sure they nailed it. This gives him the ability to tighten in editing if he needs to, or perhaps use the beginning of one take and the end of another. It also helps if he needs someone to hit a particularly difficult mark, like making a gun land in the right spot.
Cautious fellow, are you?
And last, keep it short. Don't outstay your welcome. The Spielberg Oner is designed to get through scenes quickly and keep the pace up. You should not be spending an entire day trying to get it perfect. That's for shit like this. So, in conclusion, I understand that there's sometimes a lot of backlash with regards to talking about Spielberg as a serious artist. I mean, sometimes the sentimental stuff is a little hard to swallow. I'm not going to talk about his legacy, but I do think he should be celebrated for his oners. Especially considering it's a technique generally abandoned by mainstream directors for either this kind of incomprehensible bullshit, or this really good but also really noticeable style. Ironically, this dude, who was once considered responsible for destroying 70s Hollywood filmmaking, is probably the greatest living practitioner of a classic Hollywood tradition. I wonder if he feels sad about that. Fuck that, he's rich.